Hello. It's been a while since I've checked in. Just wanted to do a brief video. Usually most of the time they say no news is good news. And it's true. My life's been going pretty well and my health has been doing pretty well. Just had a lot of things going on in life, good things, challenging things, but all good. And I just wanted to do a bit of a check-in since it's been about a year and a half since my diagnosis. Just as a little recap, I was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis around March of 2024 after several I won't say several years, but about 3 years of elevated liver enzymes. I didn't act on the elevations in a timely manner. Well, I'll say in a timely manner. I didn't act on that news and follow up on it very quickly. Just because of things that were going on in my life, I decided that these other things were more important, even though your liver is pretty important. But I wasn't sick. I wasn't having any symptoms, just elevated enzymes. And yeah, for a couple of years, I kind of sat on it, hoping that maybe it was a passing thing. I was going through a lot of grief at the time. I was going through, lost 3 very close family members in actually a year and a half's time. I lost my husband first due to cancer, and then 2 months later, I lost my brother to cancer. And then about a year and a half later, I lost my father to a blood disorder, and had to, of course, for my husband and my father, I did some, pretty intensive care for them near the end of their lives. So, there was a lot going on, and I was hoping it was related to the stress of that, and that maybe once that settled down and, my life got back to a little bit of normal, or a new normal in my case, that I would, maybe the liver enzymes would go down. But that wasn't the case. So at the beginning of 2024, I saw a liver specialist who, as the other doctors had recommended, a liver biopsy. So I actually moved forward with that in, I think it was January or February of 2024. So I think it must have been February, because I didn't get my official diagnosis until March, and began active treatment for my autoimmune hepatitis. The first thing I began was a steroid treatment. It's been so long since I've been on that, I've forgotten the name. It wasn't prednisone. It was another steroid that is much nicer as far as side effects on your body. I actually had no side effects from that particular fast-acting steroid. I was on it for probably 4 or 5 months, and in the meantime, probably around May, I was started on azathioprine, which is a immunosuppressant. So I've been on the azathioprine now for a little, probably May, a year and 3-4 months. So, and that has gone well. I've really not had any side effects from that. Not major. I'm sure there have been some little things, but that can also be explained by the fact that I'm also now actively in menopause and on hormone replacement therapy. So, there are things, but really I'm doing very well on this treatment. The ursodiol did not bring down my alkaline phosphatase, which had been historically my highest liver enzyme. So they started me on a bile salt called ursodiol. And so that quickly began to bring down my alkaline phosphatase. And so over probably from June to about December, there was a tremendous decrease in my liver enzymes. I think in December, I was back in the well, actually my AST and ALT were probably in the upper normal range by about October, November. Alkaline phosphatase did take the longest to come down, but it was also had been the most elevated, so it had a ways to go. But I reached, I'm pretty sure, yeah, like November, December, my alkaline phosphatase had gone down to the high normal level. So actually, I've been doing pretty good. Again, I really have no side effects. I have the occasional fatigue, which again, I'm getting older, and sometimes I wonder if my fatigue days are due to just the fact I'm getting older. I'm in active menopause, and I'm also an immunosuppressant. So, fatigue is such a wide-ranging symptom for very many diseases and or conditions, but it's also just a side effect of life and a side effect of getting older. So I don't have debilitating fatigue. I notice the fatigue the most after I have either had several days of really intense activity. If I'm very busy and I'm on the go a lot, I can usually stay on the go for 2 or 3 days, but then I'll eventually have a crash day where I just have to sit and rest. And fortunately, my sleep is really good on the norm. If I have high stress times, yes, that can tend to get a little bit disrupted. But for the most part, I've dealt with what's been a long-standing anxiety. I am on a very low dose of anti-anxiety medication, which I have tried to completely cut out, but I've found when I completely cut out that it really rebounds. But on a very, the lowest dose I could possibly take, I do fine. So I have made a decision to continue on that. If life goes in a different direction and I'm a little bit more settled, and I'm also, caregiving from afar for my elderly mother, who is still very independent, but I take care of her finances. And over the last year, I've had to help her rebuild. She lost her deck on her house from Hurricane Helene, which is we're almost a year out from that, and the deck has been rebuilt, but we're still doing some finished work. Also doing some other projects at her house that have really needed to be done. So, that has been a lot of management for me. Construction management has been a very new thing for me, and honestly went through a pretty rough first process because the first contractor we hired, without going all into it, he wasn't the best. We ended up we're about 75% done and ended up having to fire him for various reasons. So we got another contractor in, and he was as wonderful as the first guy wasn't. Let's just say that. And he finished up most of that work. We're still waiting on some finished work that's got to be done, but it's got to wait till the lumber cures outside a little bit more to be able to put a finish on all the lumber on the deck. But anyway, there's been a lot of finished things that had to be done, and again, a lot of projects in her house that have had to get done as far as plumbing and electrical, and it's been a cascade of things with my mom's home. My dad wasn't able to maintain the home as it should have been maintained in the last several years of his life. And so a lot of that just came to a head and in the last year. So, but we're seeing hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel on that. And it's just been a lot going on. So to get back to my health, there are moments of high stress for me, and I can handle those high stress days, but then I usually have to have a day several days of just crashing. And in the last week, I've kind of had a crash from things that were going on last week. We also sold my mom's camper. Had to go last week to the campground and clean that camper out and get it ready for the new owner. Fortunately, we were able to leave it on the lease lot where it has been for the last 20 plus years. So it was just a matter of cleaning it out and getting it clean. That was a positive thing. Also emotional, kind of very emotional. So it's been physical in the last week and mental and emotional things that I've had to kind of rebound from this week. And also it was time for my labs this week. So that always, every time I'm down to like every 4 months, because everything has just been really great, in the last 6 or 7 months. So they've just put me down to right now 4 months. Every 4 months I go get my CMP, my chemistry panel, and the white cells. Complete blood count, including white blood cells. But anyway, everything is good there. Had a little anxiety yesterday because I went on the portal 2 hours later and my CBC was back and it was fine. But my chemistry panel didn't show up, and it didn't show up till 2:30 this morning, which is a little weird because usually both of those come back around the same time. So I was a little concerned that they didn't draw the chemistry panel yesterday, but they did, and that was great. Actually, my liver enzymes are right now, the AST and ALT are like right in the middle of the normal range. My alkaline phosphatase is 110, which is in the normal range. But it was the first time that we noticed it was creeping up. It was 110, even though it was still in normal range. And that's when they say, oh, we're just going to monitor this a little bit. But over the next 2 or 3 years, it creeped up to like 486. So when it reached 486, I knew, despite doing some functional medicine things, which helped me in a lot of different areas, the functional medicine approach did not help my liver enzymes. So I did take the Western approach to getting that down, and I'm glad I did. I mean, I'm not looking forward to being on immunosuppressant possibly for the rest of my life. In a couple of years, if things stay normal, I may do a trial off of the immunosuppressant, but everything I'm seeing is that you will eventually have a flare. Some people have managed to get off of them forever, but it's very rare. So the side effects of the immunosuppressant, are a little scary. I mean, the long-term things that could happen. I'm higher risk for skin cancer, which I'm already at a high risk for that. I have several many moles on my body. So I've already had some precancerous stuff over the years, even starting in my 30s, that I've had to have removed. And, so I've got to go get a dermatology consult, which I've been putting off. And I'm going to do that before the end of the year. I'm also more susceptible to lymphoma, but most of these things pop up when you're on an immunosuppressant 20 years or more. So, I'm not getting too concerned about it, but I still, I have a very, very big aversion to cancer. I mean, who doesn't? But because I've seen it in my family, and then pretty much took my brother and my husband, and my dad didn't technically have cancer, but he did have a blood disorder, which was, for the, all intents and purposes was cancer. So even though wasn't officially cancer, anyway, won't go into that, but, I have a lot of health anxiety now. Used to be, I didn't, but the cancer thing really, really bothers me, the cancer risk. And also just anytime, like, I have to go for a cancer screening, it's just, I want to say it's level 7, 8, sometimes 9, 10 anxiety for me. I have to go get my mammogram in about a week and a half. And, even just getting, I'm not looking forward to the mammogram because last year I got called back and my report said mass in my right breast. And it was a very scary week for me until I could get it ruled out that actually there was nothing there. Anyway, it's scary because that's about the third time I've been called back since I started having mammograms in my 40s. So it's just like, I don't know. I just do not like scans, x-rays, mammograms. It always brings out a very high level of anxiety in me. But, I get through it. And again, last year, everything was fine. When I went for my diagnostic and my ultrasound, everything was fine. So I'm hoping this year I'm going to be okay without having to go back and forth. And, and even getting my blood work is scary, and it always increases my anxiety. And I had a high anxiety day yesterday, but, I got through it. I lived through it. I've lived through the worst days of my life so far. So I know I'll always get to it. Then, it's not fun having anxiety, but we all experience that. I mean, anybody who gets older or has had cancer in their family or had a cancer scare themselves, it brings on a new level of anxiety that you didn't have when you were younger and everything was always just fine. And you don't have to have cancer screenings when you're young. So, usually you can get through your physical and it's just perfunctory and you go on with life. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble on much longer, but all that to say is that everything is good. I really think they caught this early enough to where, everything, the biopsy, the MRI I had last year, showed no real damage to my liver. Just some very, very early signs and a diagnosis of autoimmune, possibly a PBC crossover, which is, the bile duct autoimmunity going on. But, I think everything was caught early enough that, unless there's just some major thing, and everything that I've read is like, I should expect a normal life expectancy. Hopefully never get to the point where I have to have a liver transplant or, where it kills me. I do not want a liver transplant because that is not an easy thing to go through. But honestly, I think, as long as this thing doesn't become more aggressive or stops responding to treatment, that I should be able to. I've been fortunate. I have responded to all the first line treatments for the autoimmune and the bile duct involvement. Some people don't respond to those first line treatments, but I have been fortunate. Was it as fast as I would like? No, but I've also learned that getting to remission in these particular disorders is more of a marathon, not a sprint. So I was kind of between a marathon and a sprint. I was faster than some, not as fast as others. So, but I really think my response was spot on for being a stage 1. And stage 1 is where you want to be, because usually you catch it at stage 1, it responds within 6 months, which I did. That your likelihood of living a normal life through this and not having major side effects. And I don't have any itching, which could be a side effect. Every time I get an itch, I go, oh no, is this it? But no, I have none of that, just other than the fatigue. I have no gastrointestinal symptoms. I have no liver pain. I would not know this was happening if it hadn't been for my blood work, honestly. Maybe the fatigue was from it a little bit, but I would have just thought I was getting older and getting tired more quickly. So anyway, all that to say is it's going well for me, and I'm just taking life one day at a time, and I'm enjoying my life as pretty much a full-time retired person now. Won't go into all that, but it's AI has pretty much taken over my previous career. So yeah, just joined retirement. I am helping take care of my mom, and we're getting things done with her her estate, her trusts, everything that we got going on there. And I am a grandma. I just went to a grandparents' day at my grandkids' school and enjoyed every second of that. When your grandkids are just light up when they see you, and they don't want to see you go, that just, I never dreamed I would ever be able to be a grandmother. I'm an honorary grandma. I'm a step grandma, but to them, I am grandma. And that is a blessing beyond what I ever imagined I would ever be able to have, because I was not able to have children. And so this is just a God wink saying, you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot in your life, and I'm giving you this gift of these beautiful little boy and girl who just light up my world. And I'm blessed, and I'm just thankful that, it could all change on a dime. It could all change tomorrow, but I'm grateful that I am healthy despite my diagnosis, and that I am not only surviving, I am thriving. And I probably won't do a whole lot of videos, probably every several months, as I see needed, or I may drop off. If you don't hear from me, I'm either dead or I'm doing great, and just gonna focus on the positive that I'm doing great. But I hope you all have a great day. If you have any questions, just pop them in the comments. I am by no means trying to monetize this channel. It's just I've decided to use my experience in rare disease, rare disease that's getting a little bit more common than it used to be. But because there isn't a lot of, there's more than there was. I have found a lot more, the autoimmune hepatitis support group. I really haven't delved into the PBC groups, because I've really not received that as a official diagnosis. So, since autoimmune hepatitis is my official diagnosis with duct involvement, with bile duct involvement, I haven't gone over there. But there are some good support groups out there. Autoimmune hepatitis has an official website, and PBC does too. I'm on a Facebook group for autoimmune hepatitis. And again, it's still considered rare, but for whatever reason, as many autoimmune disorders are doing, they're becoming more prevalent in our society. And it may be because there's just more awareness of it, but there's also an increase in it for whatever reason. But again, there's good support out there, but there's also room, especially on YouTube and other places, for people to share their real life experiences. So if this helps one person, while it exists on YouTube, then it's all worth it for me. It also gives me a journal. It gives me a personal video journal of my journey. Okay, I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you when we see you again. Bye.